But it's been a little while, and it's about to be the end of the year and the end of the decade, so we wanted to record a new podcast for that. What's it called? We have a lot to talk about today, and I don't really know which one to jump into first. I think talking about our semester so far in school would be a good starting off point.
I think so, too. So, I'm going to pass it up to you, actually.
Okay. Yeah, it's been my first semester at UNF. It was actually easier than I imagined it, because, you know, I was asking people at my old college. I was like, hey, it was a community college in the area. I was like, hey, is UNF going to be hard? Like, yeah, it's way harder here. The classes are much more difficult. And then I got here, and, you know, it wasn't bad. The only class I really had trouble with was my, well, it was really two of them. My law class, because that was only exams, and it was really stressful, because there was no homework or quizzes to pad my grade. But I did fine. I got like an 85. What's it called? And then my economics class, because it was an online class here, and the professor, I'm not going to name who she was, but she didn't really do that good of a job. She mostly just put up a PowerPoint and a 3-hour video every week of her going through said PowerPoint. And eventually, I just didn't even watch those. I just downloaded the PowerPoint and just taught myself from the book and the PowerPoint. And I ended up getting like an 84 in that class. But one thing that really sucked is we had this, how we took our exams online was we'd have to log into this service called Examity, where we would be set up with a proctor who was almost, like, I think the place is based in India. Their English was okay. It wasn't great. But it worked well for the first 3 times. You know, I had to be alone in the room. If I got up from my chair, they instantly fail me, etc., etc. I could have a few pages of notes with me. So, well, yeah. But for the 4th one, I'm about 45 minutes through the exam. The exam's 38 questions. It's a lot of math and calculations, figuring out, you know, probability, CPI, GDP, all that sort of stuff for that. And I was going, you know, pretty hard on my calculator, and with the software we use in our class. But then Comcast decides to drop the internet for my entire area.
Wow.
Now that didn't stop the timer on Canvas from keep ticking down. I had 30 minutes left for about 11 questions, which was great because I could finish those 11 in 20 minutes and have the last 10 to check over my work for all my questions to make sure I get a good grade. But I was afraid they were going to fail me because my internet connection dropped, and it dropped my webcam and connection to the proctor. So I rushed out the room as quick as I could, reset the modem, and that took 20 minutes. Got back to the room, and I reconnected with my proctor with 9 minutes 45 seconds left on the clock for 8 questions.
Okay.
And these were a lot of hard math, and I went as fast as I could, and I did kind of guess on some of them because I did most of the calculation. Was like, I think it'll come to this answer, because I couldn't get all of it because the software we use also crashed with no internet. So I couldn't use that. So I couldn't do all the extreme calculations like a chi squared test or a test of independence and such, because doing those by hand takes a while, and I always use the software. So after I went down to the last 10 seconds before I submitted, and I submitted the exam and I got a 78, which sucked. It was my lowest grade, and I knew if I had that time I would have definitely gotten at least somewhere in the 80s, you know. And then I go and look at my grade, and I have a 79.8. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, seriously? And I go look in the grades, and I have a negative 116 points extra credit. And I'm just like, what the hell is this? And I go look at the announcements, and the professor said, I'm paraphrasing here. She said, hey, a lot of people are failing the class right now, but a lot of you are very close to getting a C. So I'm going to give everyone who's below a C 116 points extra credit for free to help you pass. And I was like, that's cool, but why is it a negative 116 for me who's above a C? And I emailed her about that, and she actually never got back. It's been about a week and a half now.
What?
And she never got back. But she did finally, and also in my grades, the homework and quizzes we do online for the past month have not been included in my grade. And I also put the email, hey, when are those going in? Because if I get that, I should get above an 80. Of course, she didn't respond. But then a few days later, she just updated the grades and added those in, but didn't get rid of the negative 116 extra credit points. If I go look at my grade right now, I have a negative 46% on extra credit, which is just odd to me.
Well, doesn't that mean that you lose points?
Yes, I lost 116 points. And getting a perfect grade on one of our weekly quizzes is 100 points. So essentially, she's got rid of one of my quiz grades. But I still ended up, after all the quizzes and homework were put in, with an 84.6.
Even with that buff? I mean, even with that nerf?
Yeah, I would have gotten like 85 something, 85.8, something like that, without it. And if my internet hadn't dropped, I probably would have been in the high 80s, 88, 89. So, but I got a B. That's what matters.
I mean, I'm glad it wasn't something drastic like, oh yeah, I dropped you down a letter grade. Lol.
Yeah, and then never gets back, which is odd, because like I even emailed her through my student email. Usually they don't respond to my actual email on Gmail, but my student email, which I don't even really use, because I usually just use it to talk to professors, but she didn't respond. So. Otherwise, my two other classes were fine. They were normal. I really liked my marketing class. It was a really good professor. So. But how about your semester?
Well, my semester, it just got crowded towards the end. Like, in the beginning, it was just nothing. But it became crowded in the sense of, how should I say, a lot of crap I had to do that gave me little to no variance in the outcome. Like, I had a class that was basically game design, even though I didn't want to be in this game design class. It was just required to, where I had to make like a short story. But the thing is, when I tried to put my effort into it and I compared my stuff to the other people, everyone got an A, 100% in their assignment. So even though I know I should have gotten like a D or a C in that assignment that I turned in, and I still put an effort into it, the guy just gave everyone 100, and I was just kind of both upset. It's like, okay, I tried, took time out of my weekend. Like, it was during a time that there was like a dinner party and also a party at my coworker's place that was going on, that I said, okay, I'm gonna spend this time and get it, and I'll get the grade I get. I was happy I got the 100, but it felt like would I have gotten the same grade if I just done nothing, or at least if I just turned in like the word "the" and just left.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, if you're writing a story, then quality of story can be pretty subjective, and I think if you at least put your heart into it and tried, then it's really hard to criticize someone else's writing like that, especially if you see them face to face a lot. If you go, your ideas aren't good, try again, mine are better, it can just come off as kind of harsh. But I do agree if you're right and you gave literally everyone 100, then that seems a bit odd to me.
The thing is, if it was just that, like, everyone's opinions are valid, and it's like, okay, fine. But here's the thing, there was parts of this assignment that I just did not do, or I didn't have the time to do it, and I still got the 100%.
That's really odd.
Yeah, so that's the reason why I'm really just upset. Like, okay, I don't get it. I should not even get this grade. I don't understand why, but I'm not going to complain too much. I'm just upset that I even put effort into it. Then
don't say anything. It's like, okay, do you want a D? You're gonna get one. There you go. Happy now?
Yeah. But I got 95 in that class. Another class that I didn't need to put so much effort into was basically intro to... Actually, I can't even say intro. It's just like an amalgamation of, hey, in a very general overview, what's the business side of producing media and learning like the stuff they want you to learn from the textbook. Where it was just
so you're learning more in like my field then.
Kinda. Like, it wasn't, they didn't give us like hard numbers or like actually ways of how the trade works. It just said like overview, you should have a balance sheet, how to pitch your idea, but the thing is, they didn't give us any guidance or they didn't tell us how to do it. They just said, here's some things you should look out for when you make it. And here's an example of what I did for like a movie, even though he gave us an assignment for web design. Now, for my case, I'm like,
Yeah, those are very different things.
yeah. So in my case, I'm like, oh, well, I've already done something like this similar before when I worked for a client. So this will just be like an upgraded version of that. And I did well. But when I compared my stuff to the other people, I'm like, oh, no, we didn't put as half as much stuff as you did. And we still got our 100%. So it kind of got me to the point where I forgot that this professor is known for not caring about his class. Why did I decide to put effort into this? I felt very
Well, you put effort into it because you actually wanted to like learn about it, which is admirable.
I think that's the thing. Like, I didn't hate myself as much for this one because it was like, oh, I feel like if I were to do this again for a real client, I'm actually prepared. Ironically,
Do like what?
to actually make a proposal or do a bid and say like, look, this is how much these materials will cost. This is how much my time would cost. This is an estimate of how we can range between how much the budget is. This is a recommended amount we should have at least on hand. So
Yeah.
it felt kind of like I was a contractor doing like housework, but instead I'm just building an app. So
Yeah, like in my classes, we talked about that sort of thing, mostly around like mechanic jobs and such. But the professor, because this is during my law class, we were talking about that because it was a kind of a form of contract, but not really.
estimate.
Well, no, like if a mechanic says this job is going to cost $265, and they explain to you why, then that's a kind of form of contract if you agree to it orally. Like even if they're wrong, you agreed to that price. But if you find out that it's way higher than what's normal, like if a mechanic charges you $500 to change your oil, and you figure out it's usually like 50, you can still bring them to court over that. But yeah, that's like more deep into that kind of stuff. But yeah,
bring them to court over that. That's impressive.
Yeah, but that's such like it cost you more than $450 to win that case.
Damn. It's like
it's just like,
what are you gonna do? Take my money and lose more, or accept it?
yeah, it's like okay, you won in court. Here's $450, but judge, I spent $2,000 getting a lawyer and winning this case. Too bad. Go home.
The mechanic still wins.
Yeah, in the end, yeah. Although because that would be a civil case, there would be no criminal things against him. He just might have a worse reputation is all.
That's it.
Yeah, and that's how poor people can't sue in this country. They can't fight for their rights.
I mean, you really can't unless you have like a big case that like, oh yeah, we can make multi-million, like or
unless you know the law yourself. But legalese sucks.
Yeah, become a paralegal, then fight for your rights. You still can't pass a bar.
Yeah.
And then yeah.
But your semester.
Oh yeah, for the semester. Well, besides those two classes, the rest were actually interesting. Like I did one that was JavaScript. I built a quiz and for like a Rudolph Red-Nosed Reindeer quiz, which I only optimized for desktop. So I'll share it with you and the listeners if they'd like to play it. Because I had fun making it, and overall it just made it where it was a fun assignment for me to just get good at my craft. So I'll just put it up here for you to play. But on top of that, I was really just more focused on work because as if the listeners know, I'm a web designer for my university, UCF. So I do the website for the student events and stuff like that. And we recently were building an app for a volunteer organization called AmeriCorps. So we had to build basically a BuzzFeed style quiz that would help identify people like, hey, I want to be a volunteer, where can I go? And then we would just tell them, with this quiz, you're going to work for Peace Corps, so you're going to work for National Health Corps, something like that. And it was a lot of work in some sense, but the big thing that happened was we got to present to our bosses and their team partners about that. And I really just got to show off like, hey, I'm a developer, I made a cool quiz, and check out my work. And it was just like a nice plug. But the thing that made this like all these things sound easy on itself, or at least sound not as difficult on itself. The problem is that I did all these things within the span of like 5 days, and it was just like a lot of, back to the wall grinding towards the end. But I would say this kind of mentality this action only aroused because I was really focused on trying to do two things. Like, one, I was trying to sell my laptop and build my desktop and getting things figured out where I didn't have enough time to work on my personal projects. So it just felt kind of like, yeah, I did some things, but I felt like I didn't get a lot of personal self-development time as much as I'd like. How should I say? And that's one thing I think that I want to hopefully get next semester, just make more time for myself.
Yeah. I mean, it's all about scheduling and such. I took your reindeer quiz and I got a Blitzen.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I like the picture.
Thanks. I just went on Google Images and I was like, which is the best Blitzen picture I could find? But there's result for every one.
Yeah, and I took I'm going to the second link you see, but in field of interest there is no business field.
Yeah, we had to we didn't actually get to decide the questions. We had to get the questions that we were given and turn them into a quiz. We also made it really general because they said like, hey, we want to make this as general as possible. I thought about business but I think the closest thing to that was public relations. So yeah, unfortunately. So
okay. Yeah, well, I got because I chose education because it's actually like I'd like education more than business.
Oh yeah.
Education doesn't pay enough. Unless I'm like a professor and I do want to live like a comfortable life.
Mm-hmm.
So my plan is to be in business for like a few decades,
and then
then when I'm older, go back to college, get a degree for education. So my phone. Oh, it's my dad. Give me a second. I gotta pause. Sorry about that. Got a call. Oh, I already went back on. Yep. Sorry about that. I don't remember what I was talking. Oh yeah, education. Yeah, I was talking about how I wanted to actually be in education because I really do enjoy teaching. And you might be wondering, how did you get into that? Well, throughout my school life, I was considered one of those smart guys, even though I don't really consider myself that smart. What's it called? So people would come to me for advice or like be like, hey, what'd you do on this quiz? Or like, how do you know that? And stuff like that. And like recently, as in last year, at FSCJ, I guess that's what college I went to. I was trying to hide it earlier, whatever. I already said I'm going to UNF and everything. Yeah, sorry, my brain just stopped. I was doing the best in my classical history classes from prehistory to the 1400s. I had like a 98 in that class, and the professor was like, hey, you have the highest grade right now in this class. Would you mind doing a study group with those who aren't doing too well? And I'm like, yeah, sure. He's like, okay, I'll let you know again before the final exam, and just tell me when you want to do that, and I'll tell the class. And so I'm like, let's do it after class, the class before the final. And he's like, so this is happening, blah, blah, blah. You can join him in the library. And I originally had 4 people say they wanted to come, but only one showed up. And then I heard that another tried to show up, but couldn't find the room. So, but the guy who did show up, I spent like an hour with him, just running him through the whole class, essentially going through all the history with him, giving him notes and everything. It was very fun. I talked to him after the final. And he's like, I think you did really well. And then I saw him, because that was my second semester there. I saw him in the third semester I was there, and I was like, oh hey, how'd you do on the final? He's like, oh, I got like a 92. And that felt really great because I was like, wow, that guy had like a D in the class, and then he got an A on the final, probably because of my work with them for like an hour. That feels really great. And so I think education would be something I'd really, really, really enjoy. But like I said, teachers just aren't paid enough, honestly. And I don't want to have to live in a 1-bedroom apartment and scrape by.
Jeez, no. I know that you could try becoming like, our high school history teacher, Nolan, and
yeah. Well, that's what I'm planning on doing. Either just like working part-time out of college, as like an online class and then working at a high school, or just working at a college full time. Because just being a high school, or I probably do want to work in high school because elementary schools don't really hire male teachers, and I don't want to deal with middle schoolers. Middle schoolers are like the worst because they're not like innocent kids anymore, but they're not like at least semi-mature like most high school students are. They're like immature like teenagers, which sucks. And I do not want to deal with them. So yeah, college or high school mix, yeah, something like that.
I'll say that I have a teacher that does that, who is my JS teacher, but he only works 2 days a week. He makes it a strict policy to not work more than that, because he's also an entrepreneur on the side, so he owns restaurant businesses and stuff like that. So it's kind of, and also he built one of the first search engines on the internet.
What was it called?
Got sold out. I forgot. I know it was like some kind of navigator, I believe. But he sold it off to, like, I think it was a rival of Yahoo at the time.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, he got his paycheck, and ever since then reinvested the money into business.
Yeah.
And now he just...
Yeah, like, if I worked at a college, I don't think I would have classes on Friday. Because right now, at UNF, like, I was signing up for classes for my new semester about a month ago. Actually, yeah, almost exactly a month ago. What's it called? And I saw no classes really on Friday for any of the ones I wanted. But I
classes on Thursday and Friday.
Actually, I got all of my classes on the same 2 days.
Really?
I got my schedule. Hopefully, I don't have to replug it again. So I have to go to my student record. So yeah. I start class with a ENC class at 9:25 to 10:40. An ISM class, I don't remember what that is, but I needed it. I worked with my counselor. Right. From 12 to 10:50 to 12, so I've got a 10-minute break. These are all in the same building. And then a management class from 12:15 to 1:30. And then a finance class from 1:40 to 2:55. And that's every Tuesday, Thursday. So essentially from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. every Tuesday, Thursday, I'm there. But I get 5 days off, which is nice. But Monday and Wednesday, I'm going to be probably doing a lot of work. It's the day in between classes. But that's going to be much better than my schedule was this semester, which was like, yeah, you have 2 classes Monday, Wednesday, 1 Tuesday, Thursday, and then 1 online. So it was really hectic. I prefer just sandwiching it all into a few days, which is nice. Because that's what you did, and I hope it's a good idea.
Sandwiching is great because, in terms of classes, because the thing is, you do know that your class stuff usually doesn't mean the stuff you're going to actually do out of class of your homework, which takes up more time. So I just like compressing and getting out of the way.
Yeah.
But,
so yeah, that was our semester.
That was semesters. That was a bit of a longer one, but you know, let's get into the meat of the content, the stuff that people actually come here for. Here are hot takes.
Okay, so what do you want to talk about first? Do you want to talk about the Trump impeachment? Do you want to talk about CPI and GDP? Do you want to talk about the most hot button issue, Christmas? Do you want to talk about the end of the decade? Or Hong Kong?
I'm thinking Trump impeachment because I actually don't know much about what's happening.
Okay, let me pull some articles then, because I know a little bit, just from what I've seen. Okay, based on the top here, should I go to CNN, Washington Post, NBC, or BBC?
Let's go with BBC.
Yeah, they're British. They might be a bit more.
I hope they're a bit more like on the global perspective, or a little bit more withdrawn.
Yeah. So when was this posted? This was an hour ago. Okay, so it's definitely up vote. The impeachment vote, and I guess I can go into why there's an impeachment vote. So from what I know, and I looked at this about a week ago, so some more stuff might have come out. But I believe it was about a month ago now, there was a whistleblower within the intelligence department at the White House. I think it was the FBI or CIA. I think it was the FBI. I think it was the FBI or CIA. It's one of the two, but I'm pretty sure it's FBI. There's a whistleblower then who has remained unnamed and anonymous for his own safety.
Right.
Who released a, I believe it was a transcript and the audio, but it might have just been the transcript. I don't remember. Of a call that was classified. That President Trump made to the president of Ukraine. And normally calls aren't, classified unless it's about highly, military
really
secrets. Yeah, something like that. So he was trying to see what it was, and it was a call that Trump was making to the president of Ukraine, and I'm paraphrasing here, and, just add the Trump accent. Trump essentially said, hey, I think Joe Biden is going to be the Democratic nominee who's going to run against me in 2020. Joe Biden's son, I think his name is Hunter. He is on the board of a Ukrainian oil company. I want you, the president of Ukraine, to look into him and try to get me secrets and dirt on him that I can use against his father. And if you don't, then I'm going to withhold financial aid to your country. Now,
it's extortion or...
Yeah, and I don't know the exact details, but it's something like that. And if I pulled up more articles, I can figure out. But that's just from what I remember. And if you're interested in this topic, you of course can just go look it up. And I recommend reading from multiple news sources so you see the bias from many angles and try to figure out where the truth lies in it all, of course. But this whistleblower brought it to his boss in the FBI, and his boss said no, that's nothing. Don't bring it up. And then the whistleblower apparently went around his boss and went to the director of the FBI, who was more like, "Wow, this is illegal and really shady. We should bring this before the Congress." And they did. And the whistleblower has remained anonymous for fear of his own safety, which honestly says a lot about where our nation is right now.
Yeah, because it feels like he's going to get either whacked or, publicized, and then everyone knows his name.
Yeah. But they brought it before Congress, and what's her name? Nancy Pelosi, I think? The leader of the Democrats in the Senate opened a formal inquiry into that from Congress. And they found more stuff as well, like more shady business with Ukraine and all that. And they found that Trump was actually trying to obstruct justice there. He was trying to make sure the investigation didn't go on, and he wanted it to end, and he was using his presidential powers to try to end it, which is
He actually have proof?
Yeah, apparently the inquiry found from proof of him trying to stop the investigation, from what I read. And so they're voting on Tuesday, and did I send the article? No, I did not. Okay, I'll send it here. Yeah, it's from the BBC. They're saying that this Tuesday they are voting in the Senate. Congressional lawmakers on Tuesday must set the guidelines for the floor debate ahead of the vote. Okay. The House Rules Committee will decide how long the debate can go on for and whether any votes on amending the articles of impeachment will be allowed. It's certain how long the committee will take to determine these rules, so the actual impeachment will take place on Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening, or perhaps Thursday. Only a simple majority is needed to impeach Trump. So
they just need a simple 51 out of 59.
Oh, this is in the House. Okay. So it already got through the Senate then.
Oh, it got through the Senate already to impeach him?
From what I'm seeing here, because it has to go through the House to actually impeach him, I think.
Wow. That's surprising. I thought the Senate was a bit more even.
Why is there a trial? A trial in the Senate will follow the vote to impeach Mr. Trump in the House, as decreed in the Constitution. The House's articles of impeachment level 2 accusations against the president: that he solicited a foreign country to help him politically, and that he obstructed Congress. The Republican president has denied any wrongdoing, calling the inquiry a, quote, witch hunt. Mr. Trump is accused of withholding millions in military aid to Ukraine in a White House meeting with the Ukraine president as a bargaining chip to push Ukraine into investigating his Democratic rival Joe Biden. Democrats say this amounts to an abuse of presidential power.
Well, a question then. I mean, if I remember correctly, impeachment is just a formal accusation of wrongdoing, or saying hey.
No. Impeachment would be removal.
You can. Is it really removal? Like, absolutely? I thought you just resigned.
Well, that's what almost everyone had. Like Nixon was about to be impeached, and he just resigned because he didn't want to be the president who was impeached. Most presidents will resign to not have that big of a black mark on their presidency.
So if you're impeached, you literally get kicked out. I thought it was just like, we think you did something wrong.
No.
Oh, no, we know you did something wrong.
Well, they can only start impeachment if they find that you've done a criminal offense.
Oh.
Like, for Nixon, it was trying to cover up the Watergate investigation, because he didn't actually do Watergate. It was the Republican Party. He just tried to cover it up and make it so Congress couldn't figure out what they were doing, because it would, help him. While Trump is apparently doing the same with the investigation into Ukraine at the moment, but also has more in the fact that he directly contacted the Ukrainian government and is trying to withhold funds until they help him politically. Which apparently is something the founders actually feared, is foreign influence into our elections, and that's one of the reasons they made the articles of impeachment. Is to remove presidents who have help from the outside nations. But if he gets impeached, then Mike Pence will become president until 2020.
Well, crap.
And
wait, can Trump run again? Or if you're impeached, you just can't run for election?
I don't know.
Because that hasn't been done before. That's the thing.
Yeah, because usually the impeached president was either on their second term and just left quickly. Or there was one guy who was trying to be impeached, the first one, like the 1800s. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah. I don't know. It'd be hilarious if... I mean, would it be possible? I could see it happen.
Can an impeached president run again? Is it possible that President Trump could be impeached, removed from office, and then turn around and get reelected? The short answer is maybe. Possibly. We don't really know.
It's never been done before.
According to the U.S. Constitution, the decision falls into the hands of the U.S. Senate.
So they will
okay. The Senate can vote to simply remove the president from office, or it can vote to disqualify the president from ever holding public office anywhere again.
Wow. Okay, so they can decide either to revoke you from... I don't know why it has to be an option, though. That's the thing.
Well, I don't know. I think that might be for if it's a really bad thing, while removal might be like even if the president commits another crime. Like, let's say the president, what's a stupid felony? Commits mail fraud. He goes to somebody's house and
smoked marijuana in the presidential office and got caught.
Sure. That's still a impeachable offense. Just like they tried to impeach Clinton, I think, for sexual misconduct, misconduct, which didn't go through. What's it called? But you can never run for any public office again. Be like, if you murdered someone, it's like, we don't want you to ever hold public office again. But we won't know what they'll choose until the trial until the trial goes through. But that's only if this vote in the House passes. If that doesn't,
I feel like it should just. I feel like if you're being impeached, you shouldn't even have the ability to run for office again.
Well, yeah, that's an option, but it's probably going to be much harder to get through with bipartisan support, which, by the way, there's almost none of.
Yeah. But, so the Democrats' only option is to overwhelm the Republicans with
which
votes.
They did in the Senate because they hold the majority. But getting through the House, they're going to need some Republicans to flip. Which, honestly, I don't think this should be a partisan issue. Like, if we have evidence that he committed wrongdoings, then he should be removed.
You know, I have a question. Do you think this would still be as slow if we just saw, we have video proof that President Trump shot this person?
Yes, honestly, I think it'd be slow because the Republican Party is so entrenched in Trump right now that they can't see anything else. They're like,
you would think, but there's a few, but
yeah, but they're rare and they're mostly hated. You know, Trump talks about the never Trumpers are out there. They're hating me. You know, all that sort of stuff. And I was one of them. I never liked Trump. ever. I thought he was a fool, and I thought he was a bad person, and I thought his policies, like tariffs and trade wars, were stupid as hell. So I would be in that category. And honestly, I'm almost assuredly not going to vote for him in 2020. I hope the Democratic candidate is good, or I'm going to just piss into the ocean and vote third party.
To be honest, I have one candidate where if he doesn't become president, I'm only going to vote for him wherever he goes.
Yang.
So, yeah, I'll vote for Yang wherever he goes. I remember hearing some rumors saying like Yang would be open to joining Joe Biden as a vice president. That's like a big of a...
Listen, if Biden becomes the Democratic nominee, I'm not voting for him either.
Yeah, I don't really like it either.
Or like Warren. I don't... They're all so old!
Yeah, like...
I don't want another boomer in the goddamn presidency.
That's the thing. I would be more willing if Yang was the VP, though.
Yeah, but what the hell does the vice president do?
You know, that's a good point. I don't remember Pence doing anything except make donations.
Yeah, they just go around and talk to people. Like, what did Biden do during the Obama years? He made speeches, and that was it.
Yeah, pretty much. Ugh, that sucks. Well...
Can we have another JFK? Like a young president? Please?
Hey, if you vote for Yang Gang, we can have someone who's like under
50, please!
He's under 50.
Well, hopefully he gets the Democratic nomination.
Yeah, I would love that.
And hopefully...
He's trolling at 1% or like 3%. One of those two.
Nice! That's a huge support right there.
But hey, like all grassroots donations, I'll give them that.
Politics sucks right now. It really does.
Yeah.
Like,
it's these moments that made me feel like Akira is more likely to be the case of the world.
I haven't seen
Not like
that.
just in Akira, don't imagine the monsterish horror that comes about, but more of like how the cops are there, or there's lawmakers out there, that there's a battle between people trying to do the right thing of the law and just let the corporations or let the forces that really rule the shadow governments that really own the whole place. So it's a battle between those tendencies of we should do right by the people, and then the government should be afraid of the people, but governments are being controlled by someone else. Yeah. You know, actually, speaking of that, I'll give the libertarians one thing right here, that I'm more willing to switch my flip on gun reform because of Hong Kong and
all the other dozens of protests around the world right now.
I'm more likely to switch my flip and say, like, you know what? Maybe it's not just the availability of guns that's an issue. Maybe the availability of guns makes it like an issue for, like, you know, school shootings. But I think that has to do more of like a, not so much.
I think school shootings really have to do with culture at this point.
That's the thing. I can't say, because think about this. The thing that doesn't make any sense is that if school shootings were as big of a problem, that guns are the cause of it. And I might flip my script on this sometime if I really think it is. I think the reason why I'm a bit hesitant is because why weren't there as many reporting school shootings like in the 50s or like in the 40s? Or wasn't that like a thing that would happen in younger ages?
Mm-hmm. The first real big one was Columbine in 99, I think it was, 98.
Yeah. And like ever since like the 90s up until now it's happened.
It's just been growing more and more, yeah.
So I can't say like guns were the big thing. I mean, sure, guns might have rose during that time, but it wasn't like, how should I say, it doesn't feel like the amount of gun violence scales proportionally through history, or it doesn't make sense like through history. I'm not too sure. But like when I saw Hong Kong, when I see India right now with how they're persecuting Muslims, and they basically just said, hey, actually, be a good equivalent to this. Imagine if America passed a law saying that all black people that were born here are not citizens of the United States anymore because we can't prove that all of them came from America and that they're good for national health or whatever.
You're talking about India, you said?
Yeah. India has something similar where it's like, okay, all Muslims, whether you were born here and you have your papers and you have it all tracked out, or if you were born here, you didn't have your papers, or if you're an immigrant, you came here normally or illegally, all Muslims have to be, stripped of their citizenship and reapply, or show that they have proof that they were here.
Wow, I didn't hear about that. Wow.
I
did hear that there was a rise of, Hindu nationals in India, but I didn't think it had gotten that far.
The Hindu nationals own the president, Prime Minister Modi, and he basically passed that law a couple weeks ago, which has caused riots, and police were going into schools, taking out Muslim kids, beating them up as they protest.
Wow.
They would it's crazy out there, and I'm like, India. I mean, not just India, but just Asia in general is having a real moment between government authority, and there's moments where I'm like, damn. But when you thought that you could just substitute China for going, maybe working with India, and then this stuff happens. But the nationals really just took over. And it's weird because this is actually illegal in their constitution. India, I remember, is supposed to be a secular nation. Sure, they have Hindus as the majority, but in their constitution, I could have sworn it was like Gandhi made it where all religions are,
Well, Gandhi wasn't that great of a guy, honestly. I mean, he was a pretty huge racist.
He was, but I do remember that was in the constitution at least. I remember that was just put in, everyone's equal in religion in terms of the law.
And that because I was thinking, because I watched a video recently. It's an hour long about how Trump is really failing. Why the hell is there a blue video? Oh, it's because I messed up the cords again. Oh,
is this video by Kraut?
Yeah, it is.
I love this. I rewatched it 3 times.
Great.
He reminds me of Brain for Breakfast in terms of what his content is.
I don't know who that is, but
remember the guy who used to do Poland Ball videos about states and.
Oh, I think I watched 1 or 2 of his videos.
He committed suicide earlier this year. I remember.
Oh, that's.
And there has been a gap. There's no one been able to take up that same niche market, and ever since Kraut's been doing those videos, it just felt like it reminded me of those good days.
Have you seen this one though? I watched this one before.
Oh yeah, A Liberal Democracies. I've seen this only once.
It's such a weird topic, honestly.
Yeah, it's oh yeah, we're definitely a democracy. Kinda, not really. We're just authoritarian. I think that's the thing about China. It's it's not a liberal democracy, but it's a authoritarian capitalist nation.
Well, it's like if you took the social values, China right now is if you took the social values of communism, you mixed it with kind of weird crony capitalism, and then you just put the facade of a democracy over it all. That's kind of what, and then add a huge spike of authoritarianism. That's what China is.
A facade. I can't even say facade of democracy because I do know that
it's China the facade that North Korea puts up. It's yeah, we call ourselves a democracy, but anyone who has eyes can tell that we're.
Yeah.
Or anyone without eyes, even.
Could just listen to
just listen to what they say. They're the black people are no, they're not a democracy. Talk to me in sign language. Wait, no, that wouldn't work. I'm sorry. I'm kind of stupid sometimes. Talking sign language to a blind person, they can't tell what you're saying.
No.
Yeah, there's so many protests going on. I looked up how many protests are going on in the world. Did you know there's protests in Haiti right now? And Iran and Lebanon and Peru.
I know about Ecuador.
France.
Or was it? Mm-hmm. France has been going on a fire for a while.
Iraq, Israel, but Israel's have been going on for more than 50 years.
Is this because of the corruption with the prime minister?
Also, I used to be really pro-Israel, but now looking at it, it's kind of not just what they're doing. It's okay, Holocaust happens, shit's bad, I don't like it at all. And then the Jewish population, at least most of them, or not, I wouldn't say most, but the Zionists, I should say, people who want to go back to Israel. They're we need to reclaim our ancient homeland to make sure our religion stays okay. And it's like, okay, so you're moving into that region. They're like, no, we're gonna go conquer it. And it's like, okay, but what about the people who live there? It's like, oppress them quickly. Try to like move them out. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
You know, I'll say, like, I do remember having this conversation with Nolan one time, and we were talking about it, the history of it. I do feel like there is this, there was a hostility, because I remember there, in the beginning it was like, what are you guys doing here? This is our land. We were here first, the Palestinians and the Arabs. It was like, yeah, but this is our homeland way before, so we're here to stake our claim. And then everyone got into a big fight, and then eventually there was like a semi-peace, but then the Arabs attacked again, and then it's like, okay, that's it. We have guns from the U.S., so you're guys going to stay away. And now there's a hostility between the people who live there, who feel unjustly unstated. Like, I was here before. I lived here long ago with my family, and now they're here. And also they're treated as second-class citizens, so it kind of just sucks all around. And I'll admit, like, whenever I hear, like, supporting Israel, I feel like it's a blanket term that people just do because they're Republican. They just feel like I have to do it. But I'm really interested in the people who have their opinions on it because it's a multifaceted issue.
I think if they were more like, okay, they're conquerors. Okay, cool. Well, not really cool. I don't really like conquerors that much, but it happens in a history.
Okay.
But if you're gonna be a conqueror, at least try to be good to the people that you conquer.
Yeah.
Like,
you're just.
I'm trying to find a graphic I saw.
Yeah, because
I found it, but it's kind of blurry because I can't seem to find the source I got it from. But here's the image. Of course, like I said, it's really blurry. But what I'm seeing here is that the graphic says that there's 6.5 million Jewish Israelis in Israel, and 6.6 million Palestinians. Every Jewish Israeli seems to have full voting rights, and then some Palestinians have voting rights, and there's some people that live in villages that aren't considered part of Israel or are too small to be counted, who are kind of in a gray area. Right. But 4.75 million Palestinians do not have voting rights in Israel, which really just boggles my mind. If you call yourself a democracy, when, you know, that large of a chunk, Israel seems to be about 12 to 13 million people. If you're cutting out a fourth of your population from voting, that's just obscene to me. Like, how?
It looks like a third, honestly.
Yeah, well, you know, if it's that's 4 points. That's about 5 million. So, yeah, around a third, a little less. But that's just it's crazy to me. Like, if they were better to the Palestinians, I think I would like Israel a lot more. You know, I don't like how they're kind of like a religious state. Like, they're technically secular, but they've got the Star of David on their flag. Like, they're a Jewish state, which I don't agree with a religious state at all. You know.
Well, it's a theocracy for sure. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of one of those things where it's like if you don't fit the mold of the religion, then you're screwed. Especially even if you were there before.
And Judaism is such a hard religion to convert into. Because even if if you convert to Judaism, you're not considered a true Jew until the next generation, where your mother has to be Jewish. If your mother is Jewish, then you're considered a true Jew, which is just crazy to me.
You can't jump into it like, you know. I think that was the big appeal of Christianity. You didn't have to be born. You can just.
And there was
I decided to be Christian now.
And there was no big laws, really, besides, like, a few. There was no, like, oh, you can't cut your hair, you can't eat shellfish, blah, 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 blah.
Now I think about it, the biggest religions were the ones that were, like, the most accepting. Like, Buddhism, Islam, Christianity.
Well, Islam is accepting of people, yeah. But
Accepting people.
accepting of women, not as much.
Not as much. I'll say, like, in terms of, there's more requirements, in terms of who has the most requirements to get in versus requirements to stay in is different. Because the requirements to stay into Christianity are very little, and the requirements to get in are just basically none.
It's like,
Just
do you
jump
believe in
in.
Jesus? It's like, sure. You're a Christian now.
But
Welcome. If you're a Catholic, you gotta listen to the Pope.
choose your flavor.
Yeah. Protestantism, chaos flavor. Catholicism, ancient flavor. Orthodox, Russian and Greek flavor. Assyrian, oppressed flavor.
Oh no.
Don't choose that one, or you'll be killed probably.
And then Buddhism, you have like a bunch of flavors in that.
I found a high quality version. Here it is.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, there you go. You can actually read the text.
Wow. Includes settlers occupying the West Bank. Okay. Palestinian citizens of Israel. Okay. There's the partial of unrecognized villages who kind of get to vote, but they don't. And then after that, everyone else. Sorry, you have no voting rights. That's really sad.
It is, honestly. And I wish that they were better. But they're not. Here is a... Can I get the original? Can I get like a version of this video? Where was this uploaded? Okay, I'll also have to send you this link I found. It's on Reddit. There is this Palestinian man who apparently, from what the story is, he was walking to work, and some Israeli soldiers were like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm walking to work."
I remember this.
And they said, "Okay, put your hands up and just walk away." And he's like, "Okay," and just walks past them. And then as he is, I don't know, 20, 30 feet from them with his hands up back towards them, an Israeli soldier pulls out their gun and shoots him in the back. And from what I know, they were using a rubber bullet, but even then, a rubber bullet is just a steel bullet with rubber around it. So that's still, and then they just walk away, the soldiers, and they took a video of it and posted it, which is just like, man, that's fucked up. And I don't know, I don't like the rise of authoritarian, like, ethno or religious nationalist states around the world, like India, like you said, with Hindi nationalists, Israel, right. You know, the U.S. seems to be kind of heading that way, honestly, too. And
but it can't because there's too many people. Yeah, it could be if it were like a different time, we didn't have as many, as much diversity in the U.S.
Yeah,
it could have happened, but look how we're with Trump, and still is like, we can't get rid of.
Yeah, I mean, he wanted to do a Muslim ban. That's just, it's crazy to me. Man, the world really just like fucks up my brain sometimes.
Yeah. How about a last minute mind screw? Hong Kong. I want to get an update on that for some hopeful, actually some little bit of hope in a sense.
A little bit, but it's also getting kind of worse in some regards.
Yeah, like, okay, the update was, if I remember correctly, a joint bill passed by, both parties, Republican, Democrat, to allow, or at least basically, if I remember correctly, this bill formally tells China to, like, please stop hurting people in Hong Kong, otherwise we'll
it's the Hong Kong Human Rights and Democracy Act. Here's the
Wikipedia. Thank you.
I'll read it off for you. It is a federal law that requires the U.S. government to impose sanctions against the Chinese and Hong Kong officials responsible for the human rights abuses in Hong Kong. It requires the United States Department of State and other agencies to conduct an annual review to determine whether changes in Hong Kong's political status, its relationship to mainland China, justify changing the unique favorable trade relations between the U.S. and Hong Kong. It was supported by pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong, and in 2019 reached a near unanimous support in Congress.
Yeah, it was amazing. And honestly, the funny thing about it is that the reason it was signed into law is because it had so many votes that even if the president tried to veto it, which he kind of wanted to do, because he didn't want to upset China, there were so many votes that it would have overturned it, regardless.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely had more than 3/4, so they could have gone through them anyways. But China was not happy about this. They put out a press release like a few hours later, being like, "Yeah, this is a sign of hostility from
the United States.
From the
we will
United
remember
States.
this."
Yeah, it's like, yeah, this is gonna have ramifications.
I heard this and I was just thinking, like, you know, in Telltale games,
China will remember this.
Yes.
But honestly, you know, fuck China. Fuck the CCP. The people are fine, most of them. But the government needs to go. You know, replace it with a democracy. Come on, revolt.
You say that, but we just had this whole liberal democracy situation. Ooh.
I know, but listen, an illiberal democracy would be better than the authoritarian communist shit that's in China right now. I'll take a goddamn, like, fucking Turkey over them. And Turkey's no saint either, especially because Trump pulled out on the Kurdish people.
Yeah, that was sad.
And now they're being massacred out there by the Turks because of their ethnicity. Because the Turks are like, we have to finish the job that the Armenian genocide started. And the Armenian genocide happened, by the way, for anyone who doesn't think it did.
Or doesn't know.
Yeah, go look into it. It happened. Millions of people died. And Trump pulling out on the Kurds because the Turkish president basically asked, "Hey, can you leave? We don't need you here." And he just went, "Okay," one night without telling anybody it was happening. And pulled out, and then the Turks immediately moved in with guns and tanks to go kill Kurdish people.
The one time that pulling out was actually the wrong decision.
Well, it's what we get for being the world cops for, you know, decades, and then just deciding, fuck it, and just leaving the places that we protect behind. That rely on our support.
You know, I will say this is another moment where I'll have to give some of the Republicans credit in terms of, like, if we don't do things and take care of the world, then the world goes into a really bad way.
I identify as a libertarian nowadays. My policies will change.
Yeah.
But I still think we still need to protect some people around the world, like the Kurds.
Yeah. I feel
because
there's moments
it's
like this
either us or it's going to be China.
You know, I feel like this reminds me of this quote where it's like, I stand up to them because I think it was some kind of Jewish quote, but it was basically, you stand up for other people because you know that if they get taken down, then they go to the next person that's like you, and then that next person until they come down your door.
Oh, it's the they came for X and I said nothing because I wasn't X. You know, that sort of thing. It's like, oh, then they came for journalists and I was not a journalist, so I said nothing. It was a thing about the Holocaust. Yeah.
Right. So that's why I feel like this is one of those moments where I feel like, okay, that makes sense in terms of what we have done in terms of international relations this whole time.